So I was just watching a video with Mia Magic. And I was just also like, I live in the basement, and this is something I don't really share, because there's shame in it. You know, it's I've always kind of felt, well, I don't know about now, but before I would still feel kind of out of place everywhere. I mean, I didn't fit in with the culture that my parents raised me in. I didn't fit in with the religious community I was in. I didn't fit in with the youth group I was in. I didn't fit in with the swim team I was in. I didn't fit in with the community I was in, like queer community, LGBT. Sometimes I don't feel I fit in with other things, and that could just be perception. But one of the things I find that hits strong is the fucking invalidation that people still respond to. Quick to respond, quick to judge, quick to say, and sometimes one of the best ways, and this is something that I personally learned, is to use both your dark side, your evil side, right? Because I have this, astrologically speaking, I have this, but I've always been able to use that. And most people are afraid of their dark side. And it's okay to be afraid of that. But what I've learned is how I use it is sometimes being insidious, it's not manipulation anymore. I used to manipulate things, but now it's more like sometimes you can't rationalize, or you cannot reason. It goes back to reason. You can't get people to be on your side, because it's usually, that's what we want, right? Why do we want that? We ask that question, why do we want that? Why do we want people on our side? Because we want to connect. So you can't necessarily get people to connect with you, and they're not going to really able to connect with you. They're not going to be able to connect with you because you're not going to be able to connect with them. But that's the whole fucking point. We really just want validation. We want to be like, okay, creating this safe space and creating this bound. This is sort of like you're holding space for someone. We come through. I was just watching this video with Mia, and then some of the comments there are it's very reactive. A lot of it was just reactive. A lot of it was, a lot of people still do that. They're very reactive. There's nothing wrong with reaction, but it's instead of processing it. And I think I'm sure the comment sections are meant for that. But that reminds you of that trigger something where it's like when I'm when you're talking to someone, when you're relating with someone, it comes back down to validation. And a lot of times what people don't see is what people don't understand. And it's not because they don't understand or that they don't want to understand. It's not in their level of comprehension. It's not their level of consciousness. They can't see beyond the limits of the consciousness that they're currently in. And that's fine. So I've met a lot of people like that. I can be like that sometimes too. So for example, like the way my mom talks. Sometimes she forgets to ask I mean, those are just polite stuff, but I mean, it's the energy intention. It's just a carelessness, it's like very unconscious way of communicating. I mean, it's a little thing, but at the same time, it's for me, personally for me, it's rooted in something big because it's like, it's not being honest. It's honest, but it's not owning to your own honesty. It's like, why do you say it this way? Why is it coming out this way? So that's their journey. I'm not here to heal my parents. We're not here to heal anyone else. We're here to heal ourselves. And then when people join you and then people gather towards you, when people maybe they gravitate towards you, maybe that'll happen then. It's not dog eat dog world. It doesn't have to be that way anymore. It's not like to each his own, right? That shit, that doesn't work anymore. And if it does work for you, then kudos to you. Go have some more trauma. Go damage yourself even more, right? The point is to heal from the trauma. One of the ways I've been doing that is creating these thick ass like fucking like million gazillion zillion fucking ass like boundaries, right? The size of a fucking like 10 gazillion universes, thick ass fucking boundaries. We're talking like that kind of boundaries where it's needed so that you work with the dark energy of like it. And I don't know how to put this way. How it comes out is it's not being passive anymore. It's like processing it and allowing for that process and then slightly releasing some of it through action. Like for example, I would say like I assert myself and I go like, okay, so I need to do this right now. Will there be anything else? It's kind of like putting your ground down and then they sense that it's like, oh, you're serious. Exactly. So it's not hurting anyone. You're not transferring that energy. You're just saying you're processing it and it's like, okay. Because, it's one thing to have that silence and kind of just be passive with it's okay, no, it's okay, I'm all good. No, one of the things I remember being is a huge, wonderful reminder when I was watching Teal Swan's video. She talked about authenticity. Authenticity is what's inside matches what's outside. I don't remember ever. Well, sometimes I still do. I express what I want to say, or rather, it's not expression, it's the energy that I give off that is in line with the energy that it's inside. So if I'm feeling a certain way, that's how people are going to see it. Or at least that's what I'm not trying to show I'm not trying to hide anything, really. But I'm also not going to, slit your throat with it. Okay? It's not healthy. It's not about killing someone. It's more about, how do you call this? You're not creating more trauma, really. It comes down to that. What are you going to do when you kill someone? What does that do? It creates more trauma. The point is now to heal. And I know people have said this. I know this sounds like I'm repeating things that other people have said. I'm connecting it to my journey. I'm connecting it to what I'm going through. And so I've already dealt with it earlier. But one of the things that I noticed that I do is not suppression, simply to process it in yourself and really allow that emotion to come through. And sometimes, because sometimes the best way is just to just not say anything. Because if I did say something, that would create more. At least in certain specific situations. There are times where because like my family, specifically like my parents, I don't feel like they have a sense of boundaries. They don't understand boundaries. is to understand the necessity for boundaries, at least not that coincide with my sense of boundaries. And I know a lot of people, like even within like other Asian communities or other communities particularly, I kind of resonate more with the Western communities because it's boundaries are kind of understood more. But the stereotypical, and this is where the shadow, it's something that I'm still working on, where it's like the ethnic communities. It's like it's almost like complete opposite sometimes. I mean, I'm not sure about today, but it's like that the sense of boundaries. Like, where's your sense of boundaries? Um, it's like specifically like, I don't know. I'm not trying to blame this on education, but I feel like education has something to do with it. I don't know. I'm not going to generalize that much, although sometimes, I feel like I want to generalize. But in my experience with the people that I've come across, the Filipinos that I've come across, the ones that I've met, a lot of them, not most of them, a lot of them don't have a sense of boundaries. Or at least my family does. And I feel like it kind of projects onto other people, right? So, and that's my experience. So, because they don't have a sense of boundaries, you need to create a sense of boundaries for yourself. Like for me, I've had to create that because I mean, like even if I say it, even if I'm honest with it, even if I process it, even if I'm like just saying, I want to feel safe, and I don't feel safe, they're not going to get that. At least what I'm seeing, they're not getting it. They're still not getting it. Especially my parents, they're not getting it. So you don't push it on them. It's not about imposing your boundaries on others. This is why I do the quiet thing. This is why I go like, I would rather be wrong and safe than right and unsafe. When I say unsafe, I mean like literally like energy wise. At the very least, energy wise. Like when I, because it's like, it doesn't, when it comes to specifically like boundaries, when I'm honest with myself, it's just like, it's like I'm not heard. And that kind of has led to other things like, so I think one of the strongest ways I could do it is by owning it and really honoring that yourself and then kind of standing your ground. What I mean by that is saying that, okay, I feel this way. Since you're not going to give it to me, I'm going to create it for myself. And I can't expect you to give it to me. So either we part ways, we look at our own ways, and if you're not going to give it to me, even if we're in, because like here where I live, I'm here, and I could say that I'm in this place. I'm just, this is just to be like honest, right? It's just honest to God. It's just I live in the basement. I live in their house, and they're not upstairs. They moved to another place. And I do know that I'm definitely going to be finding my own place in eventually. And I'm working on that. And that doesn't sound believable. Right now it doesn't. So I don't know. I don't know yet. But I live in this place that I'm in, and it's like I don't have a choice but to meet them. They come when they go. They didn't. I've already told them this is my schedule. Please don't come at this time. But it's just like, nope. Nothing I've said, nothing I've emphasized, whether it was like out of kindness, out of being nice, or being angry, or in between, or standing around, it doesn't work. At least not with them. So I do a lot of processing, and this is why there's that whole silence thing. This is a good type of silence, I feel, and I don't need anyone to validate any of that stuff anymore. because I know that for those who will validate it, great. For those who will not validate it, that's fine. You have your own issues. You have your own things to deal with. I don't need to talk. We don't need to connect. We don't need to relate. We don't need to connect. We don't need to build anything. That's as simple as that. Take it or leave it. So that's one of those things. People that I talk to, you pick and choose. You pick and choose. So one of those things that you do share, I mean, this is just already coming out. It's just you work with the dark side, but you use it and not letting it consume you. You use it as a way to process and be like, fine, have negative thoughts. If you need to have all those thoughts where it's just like, you don't need to entertain the thoughts either, but you let the thoughts come through. If the thoughts come through where it's something very dark and negative, you let it come through and you let it come through and you say, okay, I hear the thoughts. I can understand where that comes from. And you feel it inside the body and you say, why do I feel this way? I'm still working on that myself. So even the fact that when it comes to things like when I post videos here, the whole like, I'm not sure if it comes out like show offy or like, I don't know. If it triggers someone, it triggers someone. I can't control that. But it's, for me, it's more about honoring, being honest with what I go through. I'm sharing this because I want people to understand that it's like, there's power in that. There's power in, well, at least in this case, there's power in the silence. Because sometimes you don't have a choice. Well, choice, but you can't force anything. Whatever comes up is real, has to be raw as it is, and you process that. Now, if somebody pushes your buttons and, that's when you create more physical boundaries. Right? Call 911. Have someone have a backup. Oh, that's another thing. Have a backup. A backup of a backup of a backup of a backup. Surround yourself with people you can trust and also people that validate you. Literally people who accept you unconditionally, at least in this regard. At least when it comes to emotions, this is a sacred thing. And that's what I'm realizing, the whole sacred thing. Right? So honor your needs, honor those basic those needs that you have, so that you can also process it. And then whenever you have that safe space with someone who can actually honor that with you, who validate you, and you also validate them, right? Just flow, right? Find people who you have a safe space with. Find your tribe. And you've heard this before. But for those who haven't done that, that's fine. But you'll see it. Go out there, go online, look for a safe space. Be like tenacious and be like, okay, who are these people? Experiment. If there are people whose energies you just don't get, that's fine. Go to the next one. Right? Sometimes it's all about, sometimes it's trial and error, to be honest. There's no one community for you. There's no one person for you. Just like there isn't one method for you. Right? So all we can do is share. And even within communities, you're not gonna find the ultimate. So it's that's one of the things I'm still learning. It's just like, the only ultimate you can get is from source. And that's through you. And you can build that ultimate thing. Whether or not people join you in that ideal thing that you have, that you want, is up to them. Is up to the connections you have. Right? So as far as when it comes to like all these things, these thoughts, yes, it's great to have that. But one rule I've been learning recently for myself is if people don't validate you, leave. People don't validate you. If you don't get a feeling, when I say validate, I mean like, it's not that they're trying to encourage you, yo, go kill someone. No, no, no. What I mean is, if they're not helping you find that safe space to let you process those emotions internally and allow it to naturally dissipate, right? Because that's the energy. That's when we breathe through it, when we're present with the emotions. One of the things I notice is that it's not that necessarily that it will go away, but it does get better. What we're doing is we're really training the body. At least that's what I'm learning. So, yeah. And it's gotten so much better. I mean, there's the Wim Hof method, there's shadow work. I've done a little bit of somatic breath work. It's part of the group, the community I'm in. But those kind of things, right? It's just whatever it is to take you to heal. But in order for us to heal, the goal is not necessarily healing, but the goal is to get better at bringing consciousness to those emotions. And there are some people who just and it's okay. This is totally okay. Like sometimes I wonder myself, what is that? What is healing? Why do we have to be present? Because there's something about presence. There's something about just allowing for the consciousness to see it as it is, and allowing for that. That's why the word validation now resonates with me. I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. It's stronger than acceptance. Acceptance feels like, okay, well, I'm sad, so I'm just gonna cry it out, and I'm just gonna dwell in it. Right? When I say dwell, I mean like we're talking like longer than necessary, and there's no more healing involved. It's almost like I'm just gonna sit in it and it's wallowing, right? But really, what it is, it's either we're stuck or not stuck. Either way, when we get tired of it, eventually we're gonna have to make a decision and say, do I want to feel that? Do I want to be stuck there? Because it's disempowering, right? The more disempowering we are, the more we look for it. That's how narcissism works, because they feel disempowered. I know what that feels like. I can be narcissistic sometimes, or at least not in a clinical sense. I'm not really sure. Could be. Either way, the point is we all have a degree of narcissism. It's about sensing it in the body. It's like, what is that? It's not about the label of narcissism either. It's like that whole, if we're lacking energy, what else is there to do? We need to suck energy. If we're starving, we need to eat, right? So it's about that same thing. So whenever something is empty, it needs something else to fill it up. And that's the thing about being in form, right? In this physical form. Right? It's very needy. So, yeah. I think that's it though. So, I hope this helps. Thank you so much for watching. Yeah, thanks.